Hello everyone, Helen here. How are you today? I do hope you're doing okay. You're very welcome here in my craft room this week. And if you haven't been here before, I live in Durham in the northeast of England. And yes, you are very welcome to spend a bit of time with me. Today I am mostly going to chat about my experience of using the Knitting Peter Rabbit book by Claire Garland. And I've got one or two other things to show you as well, and I'm going to take you out on a little bit of an outing later on. But yeah, mostly I'm just talking about this book here. So this is the book, and it was published, I think it was last October, and I was very excited to see it was going to be ordered. I'm a big fan. Not so much of Beatrix Potter's stories, but I really love her illustrations, and so I was really keen to have a go at making one or two of the characters, and it is a very, very lovely book. I did a little bit of a flip through of it, I think, when I first got it before Christmas. And I've just made a start on it. Well, actually more than a start, because you'll see in a minute. I've got quite a way through it. But Claire Garland is just the most amazing knitting designer. I would describe her as a knitting sculptress. What she produces are animals which are pretty realistic. She's trying to make them as realistic as possible, so they have all sorts of intricate shaping in them, and you know, just features that try and make them look real. And plus, she takes beautiful photos of them in settings. I think she's partly my inspiration. You know, I follow her on Instagram, where she is .pebbles, and yeah, she sets the animals in all sorts of natural settings that just bring them to life. So that's definitely one of my inspirations. So yeah, before this Knitting Peter Rabbit book, I had knitted some of her patterns before. I've got three of them here. I think the first one on it was this little mouse in a sweater, which you can see is quite small. I did find it interesting to knit. It was knit flat on 2 needles, but with lots of shaping. And you do start with the head, you work your way down the back, and then you knit up and do the tummy. So that is a gorgeous little mouse in a sweater. And I think the next thing I knitted was the rather famous frog. If you're on Instagram especially, you will see lots and lots of this knitted frog. And she also has a crochet version out now, which I haven't tried to do, especially when my YouTube friend Jeanette from Crafty Claire Creations has recently been having a go at the crochet version. So I'm waiting to see how she gets on, if she manages to finish her frog. So yeah, so there's the little frog, and then this one here is the duckling, which if you're going to knit a Claire Garland pattern, this is definitely one good place to start. I bought this in a kit from Lucy Locketland to begin with, but then I got carried away and I knitted absolutely loads of them. I think I knitted about 15 of them, and lots of them have gone to good homes now. This was a good introduction to Claire Garland's method of knitting. Again, it started from the beak, and you do the head, but at various points, I think you had to stitch up the back, and then you had to pick up stitches. So it's a good little lesson in the way that Claire's patterns work. So that's the little duckling. I had, previous to that though, knitted quite a few of Claire's patterns from this book, Knit and Purl Pets. In fact, all of these ones are knit in the round. So I think I was quite surprised when I first came to knit this little mouse, that it was knit on 2 needles, because my only experience is, and this is one of my favourite toy knitting books. I really love this book. I've knit about, I think there's 15 different animals in here, and I've knit 7 of them, some of them several times. There's some lovely birds, and I've knitted the birds and the chickens. I've knitted a few snakes, the kitten, and what else? I actually haven't knit the rabbit out of here. And there's a dinosaur in here as well, which is not really a pet, is it? But you might dream to have a dinosaur as a pet. So yeah, a really lovely book. I didn't have any problem at all following instructions or anything in here. It was, yeah, a nice book to use, as long as you're okay on knitting things on 4 or 5 double-pointed needles, or on a little circular or something. So that's a really good book, and I would actually recommend that book. So yeah, so then we come to knitting Peter Rabbit. So I didn't anticipate I was going to have any problem with it at all, but I did. I have found it really, really hard to use this book, and I blame only myself, really. I think my brain just didn't match up with the way the book is written. I don't know what it is. I will be interested to hear how other people get on with using this book. The only thing that I've read, there's not really anything about it at the moment. The only thing I've read are some reviews on Amazon, where there were a few people saying that although they were really experienced knitters, maybe been knitting for 60 years, a couple of them said, and they just found it really, really hard to follow these patterns. However, I didn't let that kind of thing put me off, because I've knitted lots of animals before, as you might know, and so I just got on with it. And the actual knitting of the animal, so I made a start on Peter Rabbit, and the actual knitting, there's nothing tricky in the knitting really. Any techniques that you need, like short rows, wrap and turn, are well explained. They're clearly explained. But my problem came with the actual making up of the animal, or of Peter, as I was doing first of all. Let's just put that down. Oops. And it's not that you make lots of pieces and sew them all together at the end. It's all done in one piece, except with the exception of Peter Rabbit's 2 arms. They're separate and sewn on afterwards. But although you start from the head, I'll get him in a minute. I have finished him. I did succeed to get him, get right through. But yeah, so you start with his head and go all the way down his back, and then eventually up his front. But along the way, occasionally you have to sew up some seams, or you have to pick up some stitches. And it was those instructions that I just was completely stuck on quite a lot of the time, and I suppose had to engage a bit of my just experience of, or looking at the pictures actually, but my experience of making other toys, although I haven't made any quite like this before, other than those tiny little ones I've shown you. So I will show you. Here is Peter Rabbit. I haven't actually taken any photos of him yet, so I will do that. You can see he's not got a jacket on yet, or his little shoes, but you can see I did actually get there. Yeah, crucial to the whole process of following the pattern is the placing of stitch markers, coloured stitch markers. And one thing that I would highly recommend you did, if you have a go at these patterns, and if you haven't had a go yet but you want to make them, is to read the introductory section very carefully, because if I had done that, I would have found that the little paragraph that said that you can go to the publisher's website and download a list of all of the colours of stitch markers that the designer used, which presumably are the same as in the photos in the book. Yeah, that would have been very helpful, because one of the things that confused me throughout it was what were the different stitch markers for. So if I thought about making a note, right, okay, I'm putting in 2 yellow ones, these are for the right wingtip, left wingtip, or whatever. If I'd done that, it would have made my life a lot easier. But as it was, when I came to look at the photographs at the back for making up, I was often not sure which markers I had to look at on my piece of knitting. So yes, however, I did actually get to the end there, and it's slightly wonky, as my things often end up being. I don't know if you can see there that one thigh is higher than the other, and one of the feet is slightly twisted. It's not too bad, I suppose. Yeah, so yeah, I did search for some help online, but you know, I realised it's just quite a new book, so I didn't find anything for the Knitting Peter Rabbit book to help me. However, I did find a very useful YouTube video called 7 Tips on Knitting the Dot Pebbles Wild Rabbit. And when I looked at that, I thought, oh, that's just like Peter Rabbit. And that YouTube channel is a lovely Elise from Elise Rose Crochet. She used to be called Elise Sympathy Crochet. She changed her channel name recently. And that is a really, really helpful video. Oh, excuse me. So I'm going to link it in the description box below if you're wanting to have a little bit of help with knitting Peter Rabbit. So she just basically gives 7 tips, which I'm not going to tell you now. You can go and watch the video on, you know, approaching knitting this pattern. And the most helpful tip that she gave was trust the process. And that is such good advice. I thank her so much for that, because you start knitting and then you think, and then you come to an instruction and think, really? I really got to do that? But you just have to trust what's written down is okay. And so a lot of the time I was able to just do that. I was able to trust the process and follow what I was being told to do. So I only came unstuck when I just completely didn't understand, for example, which seam I had to sew up or where I had to pick stitches up from or something. So it took a lot of discussion. I sent photos to my mum to see if she could make sense of it, and eventually, as you see, I have got a whole rabbit, and I'm pretty pleased with him, really. I will take some nice photos of him. I'm waiting until I've made his coat. His coat, well, that's a bit of a tale of woe. There's templates in the back of the book for making some of the clothes. Some of the clothes are knitted, but some of them are made from felt. So got my templates, have them ready, found in my felt collection the most perfect blue, because it's a particular kind of blue, isn't it, Peter Rabbit's jacket. And yeah, so and cut out the pattern, cut out the piece for his jacket, tried it on, like without the sleeves. I hadn't put the sleeves in and it was too small. Oh, was not enough felt left to cut it out again a little bit bigger. So I didn't have any other felt that was the right shade of blue. So I had to order some. So I'm waiting for that felt to come, and then I'll be able to make his jacket, hopefully. In fact, I mean, I should have thought about it. You can tell I'm not that experienced with sewing. I should have got a scrap bit of fabric, cut out the template, tried it on first, and then I wouldn't have wasted that felt. Never mind, I'll learn. I've learned from that. And so next time you see Peter, he will hopefully have his jacket and his little slippers. So yeah, so that's good. So that's Peter, almost complete. And well, I wasn't so put off by the difficulties that I had understanding the instructions, because I wanted to make Jemima Puddleduck too. So here is Jemima. Look, I managed to get through the whole pattern of Jemima. I'm quite proud of myself for doing it, because again, it wasn't straightforward. And I had actually knitting this, it helped that I'd knit this little duckling. So again, if you're fancying knitting Jemima Puddleduck, I would suggest that knitting the little Claire Garland duckling pattern would be a good introduction. Obviously there's a lot more shaping going on in Jemima Puddleduck, because we've got her wings are folded behind her back, so that was slightly complicated to understand. And then her tail there, you pick up stitches for her little feet there. But yeah, again, knitted on 2 needles with lots and lots of shaping, and you really have to trust the process and do it in the order that it says. Because in fact, when you knit you start with the beak and you knit the head, you end up, as you're going down the body and everything, with 2 holes in the side of the head, and you haven't got to worry about that. You do need those holes to be there until near the end, when you need to attach the eyes and things. So yeah, so Jemima's clothes are they're knitted. So she has a little blue bonnet and a shawl, a sort of lavender coloured shawl. So she just needs those now. Both of the animals, in fact all of the animals I think in the book, are knitted using Drops alpaca 4-ply and Drops, oh what's it called, the mohair, can't remember what it's called. Anyway, it's the, you know what I mean, mohairish yarn. And quite a lot of the time, especially in Peter Rabbit, you're knitting with 3 strands. All the time you're knitting with at least 2 strands of yarn, sometimes 2 of the same yarn, and sometimes 1 of the alpaca and 1 of the mohair one. But that wasn't a complication at all, and they do feel lovely and look very fluffy there. Oh, excuse me. I think the mohair is getting in my throat. So yeah, so hopefully next time I'm chatting about crafty things, I will have 2 clothed Beatrix Potter characters. And I'm not sure if I'll knit any of the other ones from the book. I might knit the Tailor of Gloucester actually, but I don't think it's going to be like my recent using of Moosh and Friends, where, you know, I'm knitting every single one. But so I hope there's been something useful there anyway. I don't know if it's been a bit too rambly. Perhaps I should have been more like Elise and done it a bit more point by point. But anyway, hopefully you just listen to me chatting, and if you're thinking of knitting, or if you have knitted it. Actually, I know that Lindsay, lovely Lindsay from the So Sweet Samuel YouTube channel, if you're watching, I'll be really interested to know how you've got on, because she's having a little Peter Rabbit knit along, which I said I was joining in with, but this is my part of my joining in with it. And yes, that will be, or if any of you have knitted, any of you watching have knitted any of the Peter Rabbit characters, then let me know in the comments how you got on. So you'll see now under my arm there is another chicken. Well, if you watched a couple of weeks ago, you'll see that I had made one of these very popular at the moment emotional support chickens, and it's quite understandable why they're so popular. They are a really lovely pattern, and I made an emotional support chicken called Emily, and she flew off a week or so ago to my lovely YouTube friend Penny from Penelope's Chinwag. And she is very settled in there in Penny's home. So I'm just so excited that I was able to send off Emily the emotional support chicken to Penny, because she definitely needs a little bit of support wherever she can get it at the moment. But yeah, so that was really good. But actually I quite missed Emily when she went, so I thought, I'll knit another one. So it's knit on chunky yarn, And I guess you could use, I don't know, could you use Aran weight double or something, double knitting double, I'm not sure. But I haven't really got very much left over, and I don't want to buy some specially. But I did have this shades of purple yarn left over from making a lovely cosy shawl for my mum once. And there was enough to make a chicken. And I put in a bit of Rowan cocoon, that's the creamy coloured one as well. And there she is. So this one is called Hannah. And yeah, it's just so lovely. They're kind of designed for snuggling under your arm, and they do feel comforting. So that's Hannah the emotional support chicken, who is supporting me at the moment. And I have got a finished pair of socks at last. Here they are. And I've completely forgotten the name of the yarn. I'll have to put it up on the screen now. I did start those just before Christmas, a few days before Christmas, for my brother. But yeah, they didn't get finished in time to give him for Christmas. But his birthday is coming up soon, so he'll get those. And they're just a plain sock, which I love to do because knitting socks is not something I like to do as a challenge. It's just a relaxing, soothing, familiar thing. I know lots of you think the same about socks. I very rarely do socks that have got patterns in and things, just sometimes, just for a bit of a change. But yeah, so that's those socks. And I have finished the last of the Moosh and Friends animals, the little raccoon, but I'm going to save showing her until another time, because I want to do a podcast that's mostly focusing on the Moosh and Friends book and all the things that I've learnt from doing the book and things that might be helpful to you if you want to make those knitted animals. And I'm just going to take you out now. I'm going to take you out to the most fantastic museum that we have, not really very far from where we live. It's called Beamish Open Air Museum, and I'm sure some of you watching will be very familiar with that museum. It's an absolutely brilliant museum. I can't remember when it first started. It was when I was a child, so you know, quite a lot of years ago, and it covers a vast area, and it's set out as kind of little time zones, I suppose. So they have you know, the 1900s town, and they have the most recent village is a 1950s village, and most of the buildings that are in the museum have been dismantled somewhere else and brought and rebuilt at Beamish. And it is just one of the best days out that you can have to go to Beamish Museum. You can ride around on the old trams and on old buses, and there's just absolutely something for everyone in that museum. And you know, really you could spend days there, and if you want to look at everything properly. But anyway, Phil and I decided to go for a day out there in the week between Christmas and New Year, because we hadn't seen any of the new, and it's still being built, the 1950s village. And I will take you there another time, but today I'm just going to show you just some scenes from the 1900s town that they've got there, and show you how the sweets were made in the sweet shop. So I hope you're going to enjoy that. Right then, it is now just time for me to say goodbye to you. So I hope you have a lovely week ahead. Nice and busy, but not too busy. Take good care of yourself, and I'll be back again very soon. Okay then, bye.